All right. Welcome back, folks, to week 10 recap. 2 weeks left in the regular season. Playoff picture is becoming clearer. No teams eliminated this week. And I don't think any teams clinched a bye or clinched a playoff spot this week either, unless my math um, is not trustworthy here. But Trevor got one step closer for sure, 4 games above the 9 seed, as I'm sure we'll talk about in short order.
Well,
Um,
I think you clinched, but I guess you clinched last week then?
yeah, yeah,
No,
Is
yeah.
that what
No
you're
need
saying?
to punch. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
all
he's
right.
went this week. Yep.
Yep. Let's dive into the action. Speaking of which, tough loss at the hands of Trevor. We continue to have a major question mark at the wide receiver position on Big Nick Energy. We started Mason Tipton, who was the second Saints receiver I picked up this week, and got 0 points out of him, got 1.5 out of Sterling Shepard. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only thing keeping us from having like no startable wide receivers on the roster at the moment. So it's slim pickings for me at the wide receiver spot. We might be heading back to the waiver wire to address that for like the ninth week in a row. I think you can see I have 13 waivers queued up at the moment, so it's could be
Damn.
could be active. But good win from Trevor. I mean, Lamar Jackson continues to be outstanding. I I've been pissed about this one all year because I took Mahomes in the fourth round, and I was basically deciding between Mahomes and Lamar, and couldn't decide, and just went with the one who had like the higher average draft position, and that was the wrong choice. I should have gone with Lamar, but kudos to Trevor. Lamar has been kind of carrying this team. He's a threat for the 1 seed. He's on a 4 game win streak. He's 2 games back of the 1 seed right now, and almost certainly going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah. He took a little dip there mid-season and now he's back full swing. I definitely feel your pain with the lack of wide receivers. Not only did Alan Lazard uh, go on the IR with a chest injury and indefinite timeline here, nobody even knows what's going on. I also lost Hollywood Brown before the season even started, and Stephon Diggs. So I'm also feeling that wide receiver bug. Um, you skirted by the median though, so that's helpful that you went 1-1. That's huge for you as far as keeping that top seed there. But this is a shout out to Trevor. I mean, well done. He's got one. He's got player 1-1 in Lamar Jackson. Um, maybe not all of his guys show up every single week, but he's doing enough to get over the line there. Um, I'm really impressed with Trevor's team and his ability to pick guys up. I know he's been pretty active throughout the season, which is props to him. He's had injuries and he's overcome them. So, well done, Trevor, for sticking with it and being the number 2 seed through 10 weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor's had an up and down year. The mark of a good manager, right, is to like power through the adversity. He's done that well. I think this week across the whole league, across the whole NFL, really was a pretty down week as far as scoring goes, with the exception of the Baltimore and Cincy game on Thursday night. Trevor obviously took advantage of that with Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdowns. AJ Brown's been a little bit of a question mark this year. Puka's kind of finally making a little bit of a comeback. But it's these like slob knocker kind of games where the median is low, and you got to try to find a way to get some points. He made the right choice with his defense. That obviously would have gotten Nick the W if he put in the Jets against the Cardinals. But yeah, props to Trevor. I didn't see this coming. I think a lot of us thought that Trevor was not going to be finishing too high in the standings. He looks like he's positioning himself to potentially even make a 1 seed run here. So good for Trevor. Big win this week.
Yeah, if this was a slob knocker of a game and there wasn't even that much dome activity, what are we going to call the game that had all that dome activity going on? I'm curious how when we get there. Let's see what that one's called.
Gonna be a good one, that's for sure. And just to recap on our picks for the week, all three of us predicted me to win this one. So kudos to Trevor for pulling off the upset, according to the podcast at least. Um, Another one where the majority was incorrect. I was the only one out of the three of us who had Johnny pulling off this feat against Eric. 110 to 90. Johnny just goes 2-0. That's a huge statement from Johnny this week, even though it barely beat the median as well in terms of a step towards the playoffs. He was in kind of that morass of teams right around 500. So nicely done by Johnny on the back of 30 points from his quarterback and Jalen Hurts. Not a lot of performance up and down the roster, but that was enough to overcome the really disappointing Eric Brown squad this year.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is hot right now. He's essentially got 3 30-point games in a row, 35, 29.9, 29.6. So Jalen Hurts is carrying not only Johnny's team, but he's carrying those Eagles right now. I mean, he does have Saquon. I'll shout him out, but it's all Jalen Hurts right now. He gets at least a touchdown or two on the ground, a touchdown or two in the air. I guess that helps. It helps when you have both your receivers back healthy and in full swing. But this is Jalen Hurts's. I wouldn't say it's his year. I mean, he's had plenty of good years in the past, but he seems to be. It's surprising that he's only the fourth best quarterback. I'm curious who 2 and 3 are, because we all know what Lamar Jackson's up to. I didn't realize Jalen Hurts was only the fourth quarterback, and he's doing this hot. So I'll have to look at that. But I'm just going to shout out Jalen Hurts for this one. 30 points, by far the highest score in this entire game, by almost double anybody else, and carrying Johnny's team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to Eric offline a couple minutes ago about how he's feeling about his team this year. I think this was supposed to be a bounce back week for him, right? Like, we didn't really know what Johnny was up to at 500. You know, Kyron had a pretty positive game script, or not game script, but projection against the Miami defense, which we didn't know much about. DeAndre Swift against New England defense, which we thought they would perform a lot better than offense. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson in that no offensive touchdown game for the Vikings. I mean, you would expect more than a combined, like 30 points from those four guys. And I think that was the main downfall for Eric this year. He still has a shot. He has to make a lot of things happen, I would say, with 2 weeks left. He's got to pretty much go at least 3-1. And I don't this is sort of similar to the Trevor and Nick game. I don't think a lot of people will have noticed that Johnny's slowly crept his way up to the 6th spot right now, and is very much in the thick of making even a jump to the 3 spot with only one or a couple games behind Troy and Colin. So I don't know. This is a huge game. Johnny's silently making moves. He's been watching the pod. He's been doing his research, and I'm rooting for Eric. I picked him to win the ship this year. I was telling him that once you get into the playoffs, it's a clean slate. It's kind of anybody's game, but you got to make it there first. And he has work cut out for him for the next couple weeks.
Alex, the giant killer, once again. I was the only one who predicted this one. You two were both riding with Troy, which made a lot of sense. But if history tells us anything, I think I said it in the group, Alex plays to the level of his opponent, and he did so once again here. Troy put up like 9,000 points on Thursday night, and I think Sleeper said he had a 300% chance to win. And then Alex just comes back with 191 points of his own. And that was including the fact that he had Amari Cooper not playing on his squad. So just the most Alex way to defeat Troy. Everybody was green. Everybody outperformed their expectation, and he still had a guy who, he said he tried to set an auto sub and it didn't work. The complete lack of attention to detail and still whooping Troy is what Alex is known for, and he did it again.
Yeah, they both didn't start somebody, or both started somebody who ended up being out, and this was the highest scoring game by far. I believe that's a top 5 score of all time. It might even be top 3. I think the record is still like 203 or 205 or something like that, but 190, I mean, that's top 5 easily. Insane game. This is the best part of fantasy, other than winning a championship, is when your team just goes off like that. Every 5 minutes, you got a touchdown or a 50-yard play. Every 5 minutes, someone else did something huge. You're watching the 1 o'clock games and you see Bijan Robinson going for 2 touchdowns, and all of a sudden James Conner's going off at 425. Like, there's nothing better than when your team is doing that. Same thing with Troy's end of things. But when you're losing, it just takes away that breath of fresh air. But being up 80 going into the weekend and losing by 40, that's gotta be a record, flip on its head right there. Like, I've seen games where you're up 100 and then it gets close, but not where you're up 80 and then lose by 40. That's got to be up there with, the most insane, I don't know what you call it, like flip on its head kind of game. But that helps Troy get to the 2nd spot in points 4. So he's sitting pretty in the number. He's actually the 3 seed, but he passed me in points, so that's why he's above me. And then Alex being 10-10, team double stack when we thought he was down for the count early on in the season, and he's 10-10 in the playoffs. Well done. Hopefully the Dirty Birds can keep it up for him. But goddamn, this was a crazy game. You love to be a part of them, but you hate to lose them.
Yeah, and to Nick's point about this being a very Alex-esque game, kind of Troy-esque too. I mean, we all are pretty aware of Troy's over the history of this league getting a lot of points scored against him, right? He's been a little bit of an unfortunate franchise over the years. Tough to see, Jamar drop a third of his points and he scores almost 160. Yeah, I mean, Alex has slowly he's got a lot of flex pieces kind of working well. Austin Eckler scores 2 touchdowns. Ricky Pearsall has a long score. Fairbairn and the Buffalo defense showed out. I'm a little concerned about Alex's depth on his bench. I saw Trevor Lawrence didn't play, and thankfully, Kyler balled out, but I think Alex might need to figure out something on his depth in case he has a week 14 bye or something like that in the playoffs. But if he can figure that out, he's gonna be a tough out in the 1st round.
Continuing the theme of picks that Cam got wrong this week, we'll recap at the end, but we're gonna have to get to the last game of the week before we get a correct Cam prediction. Colin and I both had Josh winning this one. Cam backed himself, and Josh goes 2-0. Cam, unfortunately, down there at 9-11. You hate to see it anytime 9-11 pops up, and especially when it's your team's record as you're approaching the playoffs. 2nd worst 9-11 out there, in my opinion. So, people sitting there at the 9 seed after an 0-2 week, just tough. Not a lot of performance. Juwan Jennings, I think, was the high scorer for Cam. Jonathan Taylor, but Juwan Jennings very close behind him. The Washington Commanders rise up once again against their rival here.
Yeah, I just had to pop us in for this one. This was one of the toughest weeks of the year in Dynasty and in redraft. There's been a couple different things throughout the season that have been tough, having to deal with Neighbors being hurt a little bit and DK Metcalf being hurt, making some poor trades, not really knowing what to do with the quarterback position. But this is a low. I mean, I haven't scored below 90 in probably the better half of 2 seasons. And this was tough. I mean, I don't really know what's going on in Denver. The fact that Javonte put up 25 just a month ago and now he's getting 1 carry in the game, that was really frustrating to see. But I mean, yeah, it was pretty difficult because none of my players really were hurt, but Neighbors underperformed in a game that I thought they were going to play well against really bad Carolina defense. You would expect when the Ravens score 35 that Zay will probably get at least 1 touchdown. He gets none. And yeah, it was just a very mid performance, and I'm definitely a little nervous now being the 9 seed, 1 game out of the playoffs right now. I got to play Nick next week. I was telling Colin I'm gonna have to make some moves. I
have like 19 players on bye next week, so it's a good time to play me. Hence the 13 waivers I've got set up. We need to make some roster shuffles happen.
Yeah, I got to figure this quarterback situation out. But this was just a tough one, and I hate losing to Josh. We have a bitter rivalry going back years. Thankfully, well, I guess Chase Brown drops 18, and and Addison only drops 4, thankfully. But yeah, this was a really tough week.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered, but your quarterback scored 8, 9, and 10 points, and you picked the wrong one. So that's just a little kick you while you're down situation. I would say this performance is less than mid because that's a low score all time, maybe, especially with 11 in her roster spot. Yeah, this is early season Cam form. When he couldn't break 100, he was pulling a Rob early on in the season. He can't even break 90 right now. If you're wondering why I'm going in on you, it's because everyone wants to hear this. It looks like Josh gave you the DK this week. That's tough. That's a tough look when your opponent's giving it to you. Is DK on the IR? No, he's just out on your bench.
They were on a bye this week. He'll be back this
Yeah.
coming week, but still got some things to figure out with the quarterback. You know what? But I will say this is kind of how my regular season goes throughout the past couple of years. I kind of slowly crawl, trip, and stumble, bumble and stumbling into the playoffs, somewhere between a 6 and an 8 seed, and then everything changes, right? So I'm not out of it. I'm not in an. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I still think I'm well within reach of making a run.
I
Yeah, no,
heard,
you got
heard that shout out to my close personal friend Chris Berman there as well. Appreciate that.
yeah, no, you got some championship pedigree. You're not it's definitely not over for you. It's definitely a tough week. You got to bounce back, but I do feel you. I feel your pain with Javonte Williams. I don't understand, man. That guy's got all the talent in the world. He's built like he's supposed to be an elite level running back. He's been stuck in Denver for his whole career, and you just expect him to be the guy that he looks like he could be, and then he pulls that out. I don't know if something's going on in practice where he's not as good as his backups, or they I don't even understand it, because based on the eye test, you think Javonte Williams would be an elite running back, and I don't ever think he'll just break through there unless he finds a new team and a new coach that actually believes in him. But I feel your pain with him for sure.
So let me interject here with a shiner shade based on Cam's playoff positioning. You know, he's ninth and a game out of a tie for seventh, really, but has more points for than teams 5 through 8. So if you're going on points for, would be the 5 seed. Shiner shade, does Cam get into the playoffs? And if you're shining that he gets in, who misses out?
I'll go first. I'm going to shine that I get in. I mean, there's been a little bit of resurgence with Johnny and Alex. They look to be in form right now. I've kind of been harking on the fact that I don't think Willie is as strong a team as he started out the season. Granted, he's also he's right in the sights, right in front of me. Again, a big win this week. I think I probably make it to the 8 seed, and I don't know if I have enough horses to make it any higher than certainly the 7. But I think I'm in, and I think Willie's out.
Yeah, I'll take that as well. I'll
ahead.
shine that he gets in, and Willie's the one that he replaces. I'm a little nervous about my team right now, based on the injuries and just how this week went for me. I just feel like I need to either make something happen or I just need to hold on to make it into the playoffs. I'm not saying you're going to pass me, but I feel like, there's a chance that over the next course of the 2 weeks, there will be plenty of shuffling. But based on right now, I do think you could you're going to make the playoffs, and you'll replace Willie.
I am going to shade it. I think Cam will miss out. And the reason why is I think Willie is probably most likely to lose that spot. Being a game down. Alex could as well. I'll say if Cam does get in, I think it's Alex that misses out. And the reason why I like Willie's chances is he plays Rob this week, and then he has Jason the next week. So he has the 12 and then the 10 seed. Cam has to play the 1 and the 2 the next 2 weeks. So I mean, the schedule could not be any tougher for someone who's trying to make up ground to get into the playoffs. So I'm going to say it's not enough. Cam misses out. Maybe Jason goes like 3-1 over the next 2 weeks, or 2-2. and I don't think Cam's able to make up that game on Willie.
I appreciate you mentioning the schedule because I noticed that I do play Jason next week, and then week 12 is everyone's week 1 matchup, and I play Rob week 1. So I also play the 12 and the 10 in the next 2 weeks. So that makes me feel a little bit better about where I'm at. So thanks, host, Mr. Host.
You got it. Speaking of Rob and Jason, they locked horns this week. In a low scoring affair, as we expected. Rob, unfortunately, back under the 100 mark. And that's despite getting 23 points from Chuba Hubbard. A sneaky good draft pick from Rob. I and a lot of other people, I think, thought Jonathan Brooks would be back in action by this point in the season and would be RB1 in Carolina. And Chuba continues to be RB1, just got a contract extension, putting together a really nice season. So that was a nice value pick. Unfortunately, Rob also in need of a lot of guys at a lot of other positions. Sam Darnold did not get it done this week, only 6 points. So good win for Jason to mathematically stay in the hunt here.
Yeah, still missed the median though. So again, kicking while you're down, you get the win, but you don't go 2-0. That hurts your playoff chances this late in the season. Yeah, I tried to trade for Chuba Hubbard earlier on the season. He's kind of been up and down, but mostly up. And I was trying to get him before he really went on that run, where it's all been double digits basically since week 3, essentially. And I tried to get him on maybe, I don't know, earlier on. But yeah, well done, Rob. There, that's a very small bright spot in his grim, looking season. And Jason, 107 points. That's just about what he's scoring. George Pickens having an insane catch for him. So he got his guy and he's making plays on his team. That always feels good. We're talking about 2 guys who are likely not going to be in the playoffs. So take your flowers while you can.
Yeah, Jason essentially has to go at least 3-1 in the next 2 weeks to stay alive. And that's, and he's got to play Colin and Willie. So 2 playoff teams. Rob's has been done, but Jason and Eric both have to go 3-1 over the next 2 weeks in order to kind of stay in. I want to highlight a player on Jason's team who has quietly had a really good year, and that's in his flex at Darnell Mooney, who's the wide receiver 8 right now in half PPR, which as a Falcons fan, that's awesome to see. Bright spot in that offense, even though I do have Kyle Pitts, unfortunately. But yeah, not too much to say about this one. Low scoring affair. Jason knows what he has to do. Hopefully he has the horses to make it happen after that trade. And yeah, big,
I thought you were gonna shout out Brian Thomas Jr. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he is the best non-quarterback rookie. I'm just kind of taking a shot in the dark there, actually, but I'm guessing Brian Thomas. Yes, he is the 4th highest points for a rookie. The first 3 are quarterbacks: Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams. Then Brian Thomas Jr. And then Malik Neighbors. Hey, there you go, Cam.
There we go.
And Colin, you were the only one who predicted this one correctly. Me and Cam were both riding with Rob, and unfortunately, that was not the case for us. But Cam, all is not lost. We were unanimous in picking Colin. This was closer than I think the experts thought it would be. Low scoring defensive battle, much like the NFL this week, but we go 3-0 in our picks on this one. Colin, congratulations on the win over Willie.
Yes, thank you. I didn't break 100, so that feels amazing. Winning a game and not breaking 100, that's tough to do. Even if I did lose, I would still be the 4 seed because, oh no, I guess I would. Never mind, because Josh has the same record, but I would have been anyway. Yeah, 99 points doesn't feel good. I think it's by far my lowest week. I think my lowest one before that was 108. Not a lot of good stuff here. I'm glad I picked up Russell Wilson as that spot start. But it's not. I'm not feeling good about my team. I mean, Kareem Hunt, my high scorer besides my quarterback, and he's about to get sidelined for Pacheco. He still might be a touchdown vulture, and they still might feed him, but he'll be a committee. It'll be a committee going forward. So that's tough. And then I don't really have a lot of receivers at play. Deebo Samuel's been an absolute nobody, and then I got Garrett Wilson. I mean, aside from the fact I'm playing Jason and Rob, I don't feel good about the next couple weeks. I'm hoping to rumble and stumble into the playoffs, and then once week 13 hits, things just change. But yeah, I'm glad I got the win. Didn't get the median win, that would have helped with seeding, but now I don't feel good about what I'm looking at here the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, ugly game, just like a lot of other games were this week. But hey, you got the win. I not really much else to say, right? I'm curious if we look back at that trade. Well, I guess it's probably pretty obvious. Jamar Chase is by far the highest scorer out of all the people involved in that trade. But I think I mean, we said it before. These are the kind of games where you look back and this could be the difference between a 3 seed and a 6 seed, right? So I think that get it how you can, right? And yeah, I mean, there's an ugly week across the board, so I'll take this one. I would gladly have 99.3 than 80, whatever I had.
Well, honestly, I was not going to drop my kicker because he's the number 1 kicker. But then I read that it was a hip issue and that he might miss more than just 1 week. And I was like, all right, well, then I have to pick up a kicker. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have won at all. I would have been 0-2 this week. So a little push from Troy, to be honest, helped me make that decision. But that decision, made the difference.
Yep. So looking holistically at our picks for the week, Cam went 1-5. That brings his 2-week record to 4-8. Colin, you went 3-3. You're now 8-4 on the young season here of predictions, and I went 4-2 this week, so I'm at 7-5 on the whole. One other, I guess, kind of a shiner shade for you. We were just talking about teams that might miss the playoffs. I want to hone in on that part of the bracket as well, projected toilet bowl. And you can think about this in terms of where you think teams are going to end up. I think you both thought Willie might miss out. I had Cam missing out, so kind of the bottom 4 staying as is. If I gave you Rob versus the field, who do you think will, I guess, win the toilet bowl, or in other words, finish dead last, Rob or the field?
I'll take the field because Rob has Pacheco, McCaffrey. I think he's got a couple other guys coming back between Pittman. I could say Dameon Pierce, but he's not. He's a nobody this year. Yeah, I think he's got enough to play with and enough in his arsenal to win the last game of the season. So yeah, I'll take the field there.
Yeah, I'm going to take the field too for very similar reasons. I think Pacheco coming back is going to be big. The Chiefs are a bit of a fraudulent franchise right now, and I think that they're going to need to. The next couple of games are going to be a lot closer than the games have been this year. So I think Pacheco's going to get a lot of work. McCaffrey, even though he only scored 13 or 14 points, looks really good. Got a lot of looks out of the backfield too. So I think Rob, unfortunately, a little too late, but I think he avoids the toilet bowl this year, losing the toilet bowl.
I'm excited to see what could be closer for the Chiefs than winning on a tipped field goal on the last play of the game. That'll be real exciting. Maybe a safety that gets overturned on replay or something like that. Quick look at the waiver wire. Not a lot of spending. Once again, I think I was the biggest spender, as I believe I was last week. I got basically $1 per point on my pickup of the Giants defense. They scored me 5 points, but that was an improvement from the -6 that the Bengals logged this week. So if you look at it that way, a net gain of like 11 points. Mike Williams, I didn't end up starting him, but that was kind of a flyer. Troy Franklin had been on the roster for a while and hadn't done anything. Mike got one target, but he caught it for a touchdown. So, that would have been like 10 points had I started him. Maybe his role will continue to grow as he gets more familiar with the team. Colin, you talked about your pickup of Russell Wilson. That was $2 well spent. Cam, you added Jatavian Sanders there, tight end from Carolina. I don't remember how he did this week. Let's see.
He
He
scored.
got 7
He scored a
points.
touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a good pickup as well. And then, some more defenses. We talked on the pod last week about picking up some defenses to prepare for the upcoming week. Yeah, we do not have, I guess, technically what would be this week's waiver wire out yet. We did kind of recap this waiver wire on last week's podcast. And we will see tomorrow what the waiver wire brings.
I'm expecting a lot of activity. Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, that was really it. I do expect a lot of activity. The trending charts has a lot of free available spots there. I mean, between defenses and running backs and receivers. I expect a lot of pickups. Maybe not everyone's last few dollars here, but I expect maybe the average spend to maybe be higher than what it's been in the past handful of weeks, just because we're really ramping up here. We really, a lot of us feel like, one of these moves could make a difference, especially with some important bye weeks coming up. I'm expecting, a lot of pickups. I don't know if a lot of money spent will be anything like the beginning of the season, but total number of pickups should be around, one per team. If I were to guess, at least 12, maybe 10 to 12 pickups strictly on waiver wire with at least $1 spent. At 3 a.m. this morning.
Yeah. The week 12 and week 14 buys are pretty brutal this year. I think there's 12 teams on buys over the course of those 2 weeks. And of course, late season injuries, right? I know all of us are dealing with some sort of injury or two on our team. One thing that I wanted to say was, I don't know if you guys ever go, like, when you're looking at a player, sometimes people can like comment on their most recent performance. And when I went to Jatavian Sanders today, before I put him on my waiver, the top comment was, "If you're here, you're cooked." Meaning, like, if you're trying to add Jatavian Sanders on waivers, you're cooked. Which is a little bit apt considering my my playoff spot or my ranking right now. But there's a lot of good players, and there's a lot of players who you guys know popped off this week who are free agents or who are on the waivers. A couple other players that Troy added to the trading block. Khalil Herbert, not sure how much value he has, but Ray Davis and some other interesting free agent moves by some players in our team in our league this past week. So definitely some activity I expect within the next 24 hours.
While we're on waivers, Nick, I mean, you got to kind of give us a little bit of insight as to why the 13. I mean, I probably understand that you're preparing for, if you don't get your first guy, you have the second one lined up, and so on and so forth. Is that where your head's at?
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's a handful of guys I'm looking at adding and a handful of guys I'm looking at dropping. So it's sort of like the various combinations of, okay, well, if I got the first guy, then I need to be prepared for the second guy to be replaced by the second guy I would want to drop, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a little bit of a mess in terms of setting up the waiver priority, but yeah, we got a bunch of different waiver priorities there so that you East Coast fucks don't screw me when I wake up.
How do you feel about your dollar amount? Do you feel like it's right where it's going to be, or do you think you're going to tinker with that throughout the night?
I think it's locked and loaded. I have the lowest cash remaining in the league at 22, which is saying something considering two guys have spent 50 on guys and they somehow still have more cash than me. And I think we got 5 fab out of Troy in our Ray Davis trade earlier. So I had 105 and I'm down to 22. So, that's just we've been on a hamster wheel with our wide receiver situation over at Big Nick Energy. Got picked up the wrong Saints wide receiver this week, which was a bummer. So yeah, we're going to continue to try to address that through waivers, and maybe eventually we'll find a second and or third wide receiver that can actually put up more than 1 point.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah. On to this week's matchups. Obviously, big caveat that waivers have not gone through. Not everyone has set up their their teams yet. So these projections and percentages are way off from what they will be Thursday night. But currently, with Cam needing a kicker, we are tied in sleepers projections. I'm going to give this one to Cam. I'm starting Mike Williams and T. Higgins, and T. Higgins may not play, and Mike Williams had 1 target last week. So, I just think my wide receiver situation is not solid. And, despite what I said about Cam potentially missing the playoffs, I think he's got a good enough squad to get a win this week.
Yeah, I'm going to take me too. I'm coming up, I'm definitely limping to this week. I don't love having to start Jamison Williams and Juwan Jennings, but I got Neighbors on bye. I wish I had more confidence in my RB3 and RB4 and ETN and Javante, but I just don't at this point, and I got to go, some other directions here. This next week 12 is going to be a pretty brutal bye week for me, and then also week 14. So I really desperately need a win this week, at least one, to kind of stay in the hunt against the median. So I'll take me. It's going to be close. I'm going to be shitting bricks till probably Monday night if you have somebody playing Monday night, or we should be done by Sunday.
Yeah, I think we should be done by Sunday.
Okay. Well, at least I'll have an extra day of no stress, just demise.
Yeah, this is between both of your lineups. This looks like a week 18 matchup where you have to start a second string, running back or the 4th or 5th receiver because other starters are benched and getting rest for the real playoffs. I've doubted Nick in the past when he's down to his last people and everybody's on a bye or injured on his bench, and I was proven wrong. I believe. I think I've picked against you, and then you won by like 60 or something. But then again, Cam does need this win a whole hell of a lot more. I'm gonna have to pick Cam. He's I just have a feeling. I mean, he's starting Tua. I don't have a lot of confidence there. He's also starting a defense against the Eagles, so I'm making the pitch against my own pick here. But I'll go with Cam. I think your guys can pull this one out.
One thing I do not have going for me is Darius Slayton, my secret weapon, is on a bye. And the one thing I do have going for me is so far in the 2 weeks where we have done predictions in games that I was involved in, the picks have been unanimous and unanimously wrong. We are 0-7 combined predicting who's going to win my games, and we just unanimously picked Cam. So I'm hoping that we will be 0-10 in predicting my games at the end of this week.
Wow.
On to our next one. We have, 2 of the hotter teams, 2 of the sleeper teams in the league, 2 teams that you probably do not want to see in the first round of the playoffs. Again, lineups have not been set. Big disappointment for Alex here that he's got to bench 2 of his dirty birds. So, I'm gonna say give me Johnny, because I think Alex, unfortunately, as we talked about, doesn't have a ton on the bench. Although he's got Jacoby and he's got Lawrence, so maybe he can mix and match and get a lineup together. But give me Johnny to pull this one out.
Well, Lawrence has a shoulder issue, so he might not even play. And his defense, the Bills' defense is solid, but they're playing against Kansas City, and historically how those games go. I'm going to pick Johnny as well for those reasons. Alex might not have a quarterback / he's going to have to pick one up off waivers. He might not have a defense / he's going to have to pick one or start one off of waivers. And I think Johnny is full strength, minus Michael Wilson, who's done absolutely nothing this year. So, and Johnny probably well, I wouldn't say he needs this win more, but I think Johnny's got the firepower to take out Alex.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite matchups of the season, just because they've both kind of come into form recently. I really want to see this be a high scoring game. I think it could be if Trevor Lawrence plays and plays well. Um, Not a lot of dome activity between these two teams. I think Johnny has 3 and Alex might have 1, his kicker. For that reason, I'm going to go Johnny. I think the X factor are those two defenses, right? Buffalo versus Kansas City, to your point, in this game. So I think whoever's defense can stymie the other Hall of Fame-esque quarterback probably gets the win here. But I'm gonna go Johnny.
I threw the thinking emoji on this pickup when it happened in the middle of the week, but Johnny, if you're listening to this, I just want to know what the thought process was on adding River Craycraft to your lineup here. He had not played a snap yet this season and played 8% of snaps with no targets this week. So I'm curious, did you see a tweet or did you get some intel from somewhere that, River Craycraft, the number 987 wide receiver so far this season, was going to be a good addition to the bench? Or I'm still trying to figure that one out. It keeps me up at night. So if you could let me know, Johnny, that would be great.
5,800 overall.
I'm hoping that when the waivers clear, River Craycraft will no longer be on Johnny's squad, but we'll see. An important game here for both teams for opposite reasons. Troy, battling for a potential 2 seed, still technically alive for the 1 seed. Eric, as we talked about, really needs to get things going in his direction here if he's going to pull off a miracle and qualify for the playoffs. This is a tough one for me to pick. I think I'm going to go with Troy. I think he gets healthy. Maybe Nico Collins plays this week. Xavier Worthy, maybe he can get something going against the Buffalo defense. That game could be a shootout. So give me Troy to upset, or, according to the sleeper projections, currently upset Eric.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick Troy as well. He can't really lose the quarterback pick for his team this week unless, Joe Burrow
They're going
goes
head to
negative,
head.
obviously. They are, yeah, Burrow and Herbert. I mean, Troy's team is just absolutely stacked right now. Everybody's hot except for Xavier Worthy, who, again, Troy still hates, but keeps starting him. Doesn't have a defense, so he's probably gonna have to pick one up. Troy, that is. Eric's just not having a good season. I'm not sure he's really giving it his all, considering his bougie ass league that he's got. And CJ Stroud finally on his bench. I think he's going to bench him for the first time this season. So yeah, I think this one's Troy all the way.
I'm gonna go with Eric here. I think he needs this one. Not that the players know or care that Eric needs this win. But I think that I feel like things like this happen toward the end of the season where it gets really tight, right? Like right at the bubble. And I think this is a game where I think it's gonna be high scoring as well. And I think that Eric gets the win, beats the median, goes 2-0, and is right in the thick of it with 1 week to go after this win.
All right. Next up, Trevor versus Josh. This is just on gut for me. I feel like Trevor is a team of destiny right now. He's healthy. He's got everyone kind of firing on all cylinders. Give me Trevor.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily picking Trevor. I'm just picking against Josh because it's the end of the season. He's starting Bo Nix. His Bears defense is playing against the Packers, whereas Trevor's got the Jets against the Colts. Damn, the Jets defense is not. I guess I knew they weren't that good. They weren't having a good season, but like they really aren't that great of a defense this year, at least fantasy wise. Yeah, so this isn't really necessarily about Trevor. This is me picking against Josh because it's the end of the season. I don't know if he's got the horses or the wheels to get through this tough stretch. Even though his team does look pretty healthy, pretty solid. only missing Bucky Irving. He's benching Jaden Daniels on for Thursday night. That's interesting. So things like that make me want to pick against Josh.
Yeah, the Jets D, not so great. Still about 5,700 spots better than River Craycraft though overall. So, so keeping that in mind. It's really hard for me to root for Josh, especially after he whooped my tail this past week. This is going to be a great game. There's a lot of good games this week, which I'm really excited about. I think a couple X factors I want to highlight here. He is starting 2 tight ends, Josh is Mark Andrews and Hawkinson. I think TJ Hawkinson, I think this is his first game back, right? Or third game back, actually. I think he really kind of gets it going against a really porous Tennessee pass defense. X factor, I think, for Josh is Hawkinson. And then I think X factor for Trevor is Deontay Johnson going back to Pittsburgh with his first game with the Ravens. I think if he's only projected 4.3 points, I have Zay Flowers. Hopefully Zay does something, but I think those are the two X factors. Whoever scores more between those two players, I think gives the other team the edge. But I think TJ Hawkinson scores more than Deontay does. So I'm gonna go Josh.
I like it. And I think we can all agree it is great to see Josh Hawkinjosh back on the field for the Commanders, you know. Colin, I'll let you lead off here. Your matchup with Jason, how are you feeling?
Yeah, as we know, I'm always going to pick myself. That is a forever statement. I can't just play fantasy and not pick myself. That defeats the purpose, I think. I'm going to do everything I can as far as setting my lineup, as far as waivers are concerned, to get this win. I really haven't, sat down and taken the time to think about the waivers, but I have a good idea of what I think I need and what I want to do. I've prepared myself as best I can to this point, barring those injuries to Stephon Diggs, Allen Lazard, and Hollywood Brown. I mean, that would be huge if those were my 3 starting receivers in those spots right now. I am also starting 2 tight ends because that's where I'm at with the guys on my bench. I just don't feel like they're the hot players. I don't feel like those teams are going to be utilizing those players. So that's why they're on my bench. I feel like Freiermuth is going to be that outlet for Russell Wilson in a pretty tight game there in Baltimore against Baltimore. I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good. I don't think I'm going to be scoring a lot of points. I mean, I'm hoping the median can stay low again. Anything under 115, I'll be happy with because I think I can score about 115, 120. I think I'll definitely beat Jason, but I don't think I'm going to be scoring a lot of points. I'm hoping Saquon Barkley can do some things on a Thursday night to get me that lead right away, and then I think I'm also done by. Oh no, I have Texans D on Monday night against Cooper Rush. So okay, I'm confident I'll get the win. But as far as scoring points, I'm looking at 115 and 120, hopefully to get me over the median as well.
Yeah, this is tough. I'm more confident about Eric's team this week than I am about Jason's team. Both 7 and 13, both trying to make a late push for the playoffs. Jason's team, these players haven't all hit really at the same time, with the exception of maybe 1 week this year, and he kind of really needs that in order to take down somebody like Colin. So I'm going to take Colin here. I think it's going to be close. He's also starting 2 tight ends with Tucker Kraft and flex. But there's my boy Darnell Mooney right there as well. He's gonna ball out this week, but Colin gets the win.
Not so fast, my friends. I'm going the opposite way, and I've got a bold prediction this week. I think Jason is the highest scoring team this week. I just get the feeling. I like the players. I like the matchups. I think Jason's team clicks on all cylinders this week. Maybe he puts up 170, 175. Give me Jason in a huge victory over Colin.
Yikes.
And last but not least, we talked about Willie, his schedule. He's got probably the true poverty champion in Rob this week, 2 and 18. Anybody see Rob getting off the schneid, or is this going in Willie's favor?
It's.
I mean, he's missing out on Hubbard, and we just talked about how good he's been playing. Even though Pacheco is coming back, I'm not sure he's going to be. Actually, he might not even suit up just because he's back practicing. If anything, he might be on a snap count or a snap limit or whatever. And he's missing his tight end in McBride, Rob. That is. These guys are best buds. They talk a lot. I don't know if it's every day, but they definitely are close. There's going to be some beef between them going into this matchup. I think it's Willie. I don't know if Rob's got enough. And Willie's got a good team. So yeah, I'm picking Willie here.
Yeah, I don't love that Rob is potentially going to have to start somebody like Damian Pierce or Andre Sova. So I guess he can plug Michael Pittman in if he plays. He has a couple holes with the bye weeks this week. I just don't think he has the horses. Even if Willie doesn't have a great week, I still think he has a little bit of insulation. Again, he's got the Bills playing Kansas City defense. Those games are always incredible games. Josh Allen turns it on in those games. I think Josh Allen is the high scorer amongst players this week, and I think Willie gets the win.
Yeah, I was in Buffalo this past weekend, and when I asked the locals if the Bills were going to play well against the Chiefs, they unanimously told me they were. So give me Willie. Let's make it a clean sweep. I think Rob, although he has a scary team and probably, I agree, avoids the toilet bowl, I do not think he can avoid the wrath of Willie, as it were. So yeah, three picks for Willie here. Any other thoughts as we head into week 11, 2 weeks to play in the regular season?
Do you think there's going to be any other trades that happen before the end of the regular season?
Do we have a trade deadline?
Playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't trade in the playoffs.
I couldn't remember. I will say yes. Maybe not before this week's games, but I could see like a team that's in the 9 spot next week panicking and thinking like, I need to make something happen here. I need to shake it up a little bit. So yeah, give me a yes, but not this week.
Yeah, I'll say yes as well. I think the odds are in our favor of a trade happening. I mean, there's a lot of injuries, there's a lot of buys. Everyone still is in it, even between Eric and Jason. They mathematically are still available for a spot. So I think, depending on what happens tomorrow with the waivers, I think there will definitely be offers being thrown around. One being accepted is probably highly likely. So yeah, I believe there will be a trade before, the next 2 weeks. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. I know that I'm definitely going to be looking to make some moves. I know that I will be pretty detrimentally impacted by, like I said, the week 14 bye. I have Jonathan Taylor and Zay Flowers, and also week 12, Kyle Pitts, Kirk Cousins, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Noah Brown, and Alec Pierce. So definitely be looking to make some moves here in the next couple of weeks. Pretty apt that Nick mentions the 9 seed on the on the bubble looking to make some moves, because that's definitely going to be me. So I will definitely try to make that a reality.
I've got one for you. We have in total across the league 689 fab remaining. Divided by our 12 players, that's 57 fab per person. So just over half. Where do you think we will be per person heading into the playoffs? So in 2 more weeks, how much fab do you think will be left on average? We've got 57 fab per person right now.
I think we'll cut that in half. I'm probably under 30 a person, but maybe even under 25 a person. Just because that all of it can't be spent, because everyone might be trying to spend their money, but only one guy wins that bid and only one guy spends that money. So I'd say on the safe side, cutting that in half to like under 25 a person.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably gonna get to about 40. I don't know if it's gonna get cut in half. I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be a ton of spend or any big spends this week. I will say our two high rollers, Eric and Willie, are right there on the bubble, who have been known to drop 50 pieces on bums pretty much. So I think that we could see that we could see that happen again this week. But again, only one player really gets to spend it on one manager gets to spend it on one player. I don't think we're going to spend upwards of $300 in Fab in the next 2 weeks. So I think it's going to probably be closer to maybe $120 to $150 total league spend in the next 2 weeks. So probably around 40 per team remaining.
Yeah, even a spend of $50, per person, that's only like $4 a person. So I do agree. I think inflation is coming to the league, and I think it will get tougher, and probably even like defenses and kickers will start to cost money instead of being able to pick them all up for free and things like that. As people realize that they're running out of time to spend their fab. I 40 feels about right. I'll say, just north of 40. I'll go like 43, $44. I do think there will be kind of, $10 to $15 per team spent over the next 2 weeks. That's also taking into account that, Alex has only spent 8 fab so far, right? So, I mean, there might be teams that don't spend or spend very little. So, yeah, I think it would be exciting if we get down to like 25, 30 fab per person, but I think that's going to require more activity from the teams that have more fab to spend.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's fair. I that's a good way to look at it. Like $300 over the next 2 weeks is just like an insane number, especially considering what we have on that trending chart. Like, I don't see any one of those guys being absolutely splashed on. I think it'll be a shrewd number by someone to pick up any one of those top 5 guys. So yeah, that's fair. $300 in 2 weeks is very unlikely. I'd say it's probably closer to that, like $150 to $100 in the next 2 weeks, maybe.
And one last question for you. I realize that maybe not everyone will actually end up in a position like this, but if you finished with a top 4 seed in this year's playoffs, what team between 5 and 11 right now would you least want to play in the first round?
I probably wouldn't want to play Alex because of the Dirty Birds. I think Kyler Murray likes to turn things on at the end of the season. I think the Falcons, between Cousins and Bijan Robinson, I think they're going to be, playing hard, getting to the playoffs. Between 5 and 11, I would say Alex might be, and we all know he likes to take down a top dog, and he seems to always beat me. I want to look at our record head to head over the past few years. I bet you I'm pulling an O for on Alex right now. So Alex is the guy I do not want to face anytime soon.
I'm gonna go Josh. I know he's been pretty underwhelming in the playoffs, but I mean his team is looking deep as ever right now, across the board, right? Like, assuming Bucky Irving comes back and plays well after the bye, and his wide receiver room is deep. McLaurin, Cup, Devontae, Addison, Romeo Dobbs is his wide receiver 4 or 5. Elijah Moore, who could very well pop up in that Cleveland offense. He's got deep rookie quarterbacks and relatively deep at running back too. Bucky Irving is RB3, Chase Brown, Breece Hall. I think Josh, if he can put the pieces together, is going to be scary in that first round.
Yep. I was between those two teams. I was thinking if neither one of them got mentioned, that I would give them a shout out here. So kudos to you guys for picking the same two teams that I was looking at. I also want to give Alex some kudos, because I realized when I was looking at this for this question that he picked Marshawn Lloyd in the 15th round. And despite the fact that he has yet to play this year, he continues to carry him in his IR spot. So as a Packers fan and as someone who thinks Marshawn Lloyd could be the future running back for the Pack, I respect that and I appreciate it, Alex, that you are carrying our injured soldier with you throughout the course of this campaign. No man left behind.
Well, since we picked your top two guys that you wouldn't want to face, who would be the third team that you wouldn't want to face if you had to choose?
I think it's Cam. I still think Cam has a good squad, and he's got playoff. He's got what's the word I'm looking for? He has playoff experience. He's got the battle wounds, and he's battle tested. It's sort of like the Niners. Like I wouldn't, if in the NFL, I wouldn't want to run into the Niners this year in the playoffs. They obviously are not the same team this year and don't have the same record, but they just know how to win when it gets cold outside. And Cam seems to be that same kind of manager here. So if I can't have either of my top two picks, I still don't want to run into Cam in the first round.
Sure. I got a question for both of you, I guess, then. Real quick. Between Troy, Nick, and I, we are top three in points 4. And then there's a 70-point gap with Cam, actually, you're 4th in points 4, and the rest of the field. So those top 3 have 70 points on everyone. Are you picking one of those 3 to win the championship or the field?
Oh,
I was just talking to Eric about this actually before this call, and if you look back in the last 4 years that we've had this league, the seeding of the winning team has been 6, 1, 6, and 5. So only once has a team that's been above the 5 seed actually won the ship. Obviously, you guys have stacked rosters. I think you guys have the 3 strongest rosters in the league. But when the playoffs start, crazy shit happens, especially when we have 2-week rounds. It's hard for me to pick against y'all 3, but history says that it's likely not the top. Well, I guess that's also based on seeding. So seeding doesn't necessarily correlate directly to points 4. But I'm just going to be the contrarian here and go the field.
I think it'll be one of the 3 of us. I mean, I would have loved, obviously, if you would have included Trevor in there, but that would have made it a little too easy, in my opinion, to give me the top 4 seeds versus the bottom 4 seeds. I feel like if it's not one of the top 3 seeds, I'm really scared of Trevor, having just played him and looking at his roster. I think he's going to be a really, really tough team to beat, despite the fact that he's not in the top 4 in points 4. But I like the odds of one of the 3 of us to win the championship, and I would even go so far as to say, if you gave me Troy or Colin, I might take that versus the field. I do not trust my team right now. We are soul searching, which is not a good place to be with the playoffs approaching.
Yeah, I appreciate the confidence in my team, but I feel the same way. I don't have a lot of confidence in my own team right now. I'm obviously going to pick one of the 3 of us to do it. I do think, like Cam said, we probably do have 3 of the strongest rosters. But Troy hasn't won a championship. This could be the year he finally gets over the line. Nick, I don't think you have a championship in your history, but you left fantasy for a while and now you're back and you're pretty damn good at it. So, I feel good about the pedigree there. And then obviously myself, I feel good about this season, barring those 3 injuries that really have changed the course of my wide receiver room. I'm going to pick one of the 3 of us to do it as well, considering we are consistently scoring the most points. As I said, there's a 70-point gap between top 3 and then 4 in the rest of the team. I think that's a significant gap there. That bodes well for one of the 3 of us there at the top.
Agreed.
Anything else, or should we call it a wrap?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, best of luck to everyone besides Cam in week 11, and we'll talk to you next week.
Screw you, Josh.